Welcome to CSS tutorial part 8. Today we're going to build out a responsive grid layout. We're going to go from mobile, and then at 600 pixels we're going to go to the small layout, which will have a header, a nav, main sub 1, sub 2, and some side areas and a footer. And once we go up to 900 pixels, it will turn into the large desktop view. So I have another pen open here. I'm just going to turn off the JavaScript, and I'm going to turn on the CSS, the SAS inner CSS. And okay, we'll start with the HTML. As you can see from here, we're going to have a header, nav, the main content, the side, and the footer. So what I'll do is probably just leave the header alone. Doesn't really need grid. We'll create the nav as its own grid, and we'll take all this main content here and we'll create a grid for that. But we'll also make this main side its own grid as well, and the footer we'll just leave as normal. So we'll start with header, and I'll just give them names here. Nav, we'll do nav, and I'll just use Emmet here to make life easier. We've got nav, and we've got, actually it's nav, and we'll have a UL in there, unordered list, and give that a class of nav. It'll be li times 6, and we'll put nav and the number after that. For then we have main sub 1, 2, and for that we'll do a div called main with 4 sections. So with a class of item and dot item dash, and we'll leave that blank. We'll do that by 6 times 4, actually we'll do that times 4, and so that's cutting it off there. So we have our main, a div with a main and 4 sections. The first one will be main, second one will be item sub, third one will be sub as well, and main sub 1, 2, and this will be, actually it won't be, it'll be main, we'll call this main side, and inside in here we want another section by dot item side times 6 main side. Okay, so, and the last thing is the footer. And now we'll just go on to the CSS. Okay, we'll first of all we'll set everything to this kind of just kind of global reset, so we set everything margin 0, padding 0. The body font family, we'll just do sans serif. Font size 1.5 rem. Color, we want it white because we want to give the body some different color. And text line center. For the header and the footer, we want a background color of, we'll give it a teal color, and padding 25 pixels. Give it a bit of a height. And we'll also give the header and footer and the nav margin of 20 pixels top and bottom, and 0 for the left and right. Now for the nav, we want, so if I just give the nav a color there, a color of black, just to show you. So nav here, what we're going to do is, actually that's a mistake. What we're going to do is nav, I'm going to target all the LIs in the nav. So as you can see from up here, we've got the UL is a class of nav, so nav, and then we're targeting all the list items. And we will do a padding 25 pixels and background color, of, we do 333, which is kind of almost black. And okay, for some reason that's not working. Oh yeah, okay, it's the class, that's the class, not the actual nav element. So now we have our nav. The next thing we need is so we need the main sub 1, main sub 2. So as you can see, I've set them so we got sections. So section, section, section. There are the main sub and sub, and also the main side is a section. So we should probably give that a padding. So it's not dot section, it's just section. So just do section, padding, say 10 pixels, and then for each item, padding top, we give it 45% maybe, and we give a background color of Dodger blue. So now we got. So the reason I just given this padding top 45%, it's just going to be basically it's going to give it a height of 45% of its parent element, which would be it's basically it's kind of like emulating content inside in each section. So it's just instead of putting in the content, I'll just give it a padding, a big padding, you know. The item side then. The item side we will. So item side are our little side navs. So they could be side navs, or the item sides are these guys. The main side 1, 2, and we have 5 of them. So this is the small screen. When we go up to large screen, you'll see better. Like so, on the large screen, they're the side kind of like side navs or side blogs or something. Links to blogs or some side links. But on our smaller device or phone, they're just going to be in each row. So item side, we'll just do background. We'll give it the same background of the nav above, which was 333, and you'll see it pop up there now. Okay, so it's got a padding. The padding is actually on the main side, so the section class 1. So padding is on this one. Dot main side. So we just set the padding on that to 0. And that should, yeah, okay, that's after widening out full width of the phone. So now we've got our basic CSS setup. Okay, we should probably give this some padding as well. Padding of 20 pixels. So now we can start with we'll start with the nav maybe. So .nav. Display grid. Give a gap of 5 pixels. So now we've got a gap of 5 pixels between each row. Because when you display grid, it's automatically set to rows. The main, we'll do the same for the main. Display grid. Grid templates. We'll give it. Okay, so how many rows are we going? How many columns are we going to give it? Let's see. So the way you decide how many columns you're going to give is you basically, so for the phone it doesn't really matter because it's just going to be all rows anyway, so it's going to be one column, well, most of the time anyway. So you'd start with your smaller screen, or you'd start with your larger screen, sorry. So for the main content here, so anything with main on it, the main content, this is our main grid. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, we have 3 columns on the large screen. So the rule that you could use is, so you take the amount of columns on your large screen and you multiply it by the amount of columns on your small screen, and that should give you a decent number of columns to play with. So as you can see on our small screen, we've basically only got two columns here, and the main side is going to have its own grid, so that's just in one column as such. So it'll be 2 by 3, which is 6. So I hope you can understand that. So you take your largest screen and you find out how many columns you have in that. So we have 3 in this, 3 columns. You got the main so 1, so 2, that's another column, and then the main side is another column. Then as you go down to the smaller screen, So the small screen then has just basically two columns. So you got main sub 1 and main sub 2. This main side one is its own column, so that's just taking up a whole column there anyway. So I'll show you that anyway in a second. So what we'll do is we'll give it 6 columns, so 2 by 3, so 6 columns, and we'll make them one fractional unit each. This isn't going to do anything really here at the moment. I'll just give them a gap. I'm just setting this up for when we expand to a larger screen. So we'll give a gap, oh, not 20 pixels. Yeah. Maybe 20 pixels. So the gap hasn't shown up because, yeah, I've made a mistake of not making that class. And as you can see, the columns have appeared. So yeah, so as we've made this main div a grid, the 4 sections inside it are taking up the columns that we specified here. So 6 columns, taking up 4. So in order for us to have these span straight across, we have to take each item. So they have a class of item, so we have to give them a class of item as well. And we'll have to do grid column, and we'll span the actual 6 columns. So now these 3 sections here, 3 mains, span the full width of our 6 columns, and also the main side span it as well. So for the side as well, we're going to make that a grid as well. We're going to make that its own grid. So it's a grid within a grid, which is perfectly fine. And we give it a gap of 10 pixels. So basically that's your mobile phone view. And it's just taking up the full width. And now we can start our media queries. So we'll do at media only and min width. Min width of, we'll say 600 pixels for a small screen. So, and we'll do the same for a large screen. We'll make that 900 pixels. So we just have 2 breakpoints. The first will be 600 pixels. So what do we want to happen at 600 pixels? So this is what we want to happen. So when we get to 600 pixels, we want our nav above to turn into to go basically horizontal. The main to take up the full width. Main sub 1 and sub 2 to take up 3 columns, and the sides to go horizontal as well. So we'll also want to give a bit of a gap on either side. So we'll just do the body 90%, and to center that we'll have to, that hasn't actually reached it yet, is it? There you go. So we'll center that with margin top and bottom with just 0, and for left and right auto. So that should center that in the middle. So we go to 600, yeah, and it's our media query is working. So for the nav, we want to basically do grid. We've already set it to the grid above without any media query, so we want it template columns. We want to We want it to go horizontally across in columns. So the way to do this would be to use the auto fit, and then use min-max. I've shown you how to use these in previous tutorials, so if you want to go back and look at them if you haven't seen them. We'll set the minimum to 50 pixels and the max to 1FR, so it will take up the whole width. As you can see, it's done it here. Oh, we've still got a list style up on this one, so that would be li, should be a list style now. That should take care of that. Okay. So our nav is done. Our main is done by itself. We just need main sub 1, main sub 2, and they have a class of item sub. So item sub, we'll just give it a grid column span 3. And that's the main section done. So now we've just got the main side to do, and as you can see from this, it's called item side, or actually it's called main side. So dot main side is the class we have to target, and we will just do a grid template, columns, and repeat 3. We give them 3 columns and 1 FR, 1 fractional unit, and that will bring them all into horizontally. So that's our small screen done. Now for the large screen, what we want to do is change these. So the main, instead of it changing to rows. So as you know, when you define a grid, it's automatically creating rows. So in order to change that, you can do grid auto flow column. So that's the first thing we'll do on our 900. So we'll do dot main grid auto flow, and instead of rows, we'll just do columns. So just column. So when we get to 900, so 7, when we get to 900, this automatically, this all the mains, instead of doing autoflow row, they'll go to autoflow column. Now in order to make this look good, we're going to have to change each item to span 2, so we do item sub, so the main, we do, so item. So what we have, the item main is item main. We want that to span 2. We want the main and the sub. We want main sub 1 and main sub 2 to, if we look at our design, so we want main to take up 2. We want the main sub 1 and 2 to take up 2 columns. And we want the main side to take up 2 columns. So as you can see here, we've set them all to item anyway, so all the 4 sections to item. So we can just set the item to span 2. So dot item span grid column, or actually it's grid, yeah, grid column span 2, and we get them to span 2. We get the item sub to span 1 row, the main to span 2 columns, and item sub main side, two, and the item side. So each item side we want them to span 3. No, this isn't what we want, so we want actually the item, we want the item to span 2 rows, so no. So you can see we have basically completed a responsive layout using grid. So we start off the mobile, and that just takes up all the columns. We get to 600 pixels, and the nav collapses and the main side collapses. We have our main content taking up the full width, and then 2 subs taking up half the width. And then when we get to our 900, we have main taking up 2 columns, the 2 main subs 1 and 2 taking up 1 column stacked on each other, the main side taking up the 5, and it's all responsive, so that's pretty cool. That's just one way of doing it. There are other ways of doing it, but so I hope you got something from that, guys, and give me a like and subscribe. It would help me out, and I'll see you in the next one.